They abandoned humanity to die. Now it's payback time. The stars had always called to humanity. From the first small rockets that left Earth's atmosphere to massive ships exploring distant planets, humans had dreamed of touching the universe. They believed in progress, in unity, and in their place among the great civilizations of the galaxy. They trusted the Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced alien species, to guide them safely in the stars. But that trust was a mistake. It began quietly, almost like a whisper. Reports of a deadly plague reached the Council first, before most humans even knew something was wrong. It spread fast, sweeping across cities and colonies, killing millions in a matter of weeks. Scientists worked day and night to find a cure, but the disease was like nothing they had ever seen. It mutated with terrifying speed. Even the most brilliant human minds struggled to understand it. Mara Kellen, a young bioengineer, watched in horror as the world around her fell apart. She had grown up dreaming of exploring the stars, of studying alien life, and of making humanity stronger. But the plague changed everything. Her parents, her siblings, even her best friends, one by one, they were taken. She spent nights in sterile labs, desperately trying to find answers, mixing chemicals and running tests, hoping for a miracle that never came. And then the message came from the Galactic Council. At first, humans thought it was guidance. Perhaps they would send help, advanced medicine, or advice on containing the disease. But the message was cold, clear, and unforgiving. Humanity is not worth saving. Quarantine your worlds. We cannot assist you. The words hit like a thunderbolt. Mara could not believe what she was reading. How could they? Humans had helped the Council in countless ways, shared knowledge, opened trade routes, and even saved alien worlds from disasters. And yet, when humanity needed help the most, they were abandoned. Panic spread faster than the plague itself. Cities became chaos. Families were torn apart. Governments tried to respond, but without the resources and technology of the Council, there was little they could do. Mara watched as hope turned into fear, fear turned into despair, and despair slowly hardened into anger. Mara knew she could not just sit and wait for death. She gathered what she could, books, scientific equipment, and personal belongings, and fled with a small group of survivors to the outer colonies. Life there was harsh. The worlds were dry, rocky, and barely able to support human life. Supplies were scarce, food was limited, and every day was a fight against the plague, hunger, and the cold indifference of the universe. Yet even in the darkness, humans survived. Mara noticed something remarkable. When left with no help, humans adapted. They learned to grow food in the harshest soils, to recycle water in ways that even aliens would not consider, and to use their minds creatively to solve problems. While the Galactic Council looked down on humans as weak, fragile, and doomed, the survivors began to show a stubborn strength that no alien logic could predict. One day, while exploring the ruins of an abandoned research station on Mars, Mara stumbled upon something extraordinary. Hidden beneath the red sands was an old human spacecraft, partially buried and forgotten. Its design was crude compared to the sleek alien ships, but its technology was advanced in ways the Council had never seen: faster engines, adaptive shields, and systems that could evolve on their own. Mara's heart raced. If they could repair this ship, humanity could have a fighting chance. Not just to survive, but to show the galaxy that abandoning them had been a grave mistake. She called it vigilance, symbolizing the watchful eyes of humans who refused to be destroyed quietly. Repairing the ship was not easy. Supplies were limited. The colony had barely enough food and water to survive, and scavenging for parts was dangerous. Mara worked tirelessly, teaching the survivors how to use their intelligence creatively. Engineers repurposed old machines, miners melted metal into new shapes, and scientists studied alien technology scavenged from Council debris. Slowly, vigilance began to take shape, a symbol of hope rising from the ashes of betrayal. As they worked, Mara noticed something important. Fear was turning into determination. The survivors who once cowered at the thought of the plague or the alien council now stood tall, their eyes sharp, their minds active. Children learned to operate machines, teenagers became scouts and strategists, and adults who had once given up found a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity's survival was no longer just about avoiding death, it was about reclaiming dignity. But the Galactic Council had not gone entirely quiet. Scouts and patrols passed near the outer colonies occasionally, monitoring the surviving humans. They still believed that humans were weak, scattered, and insignificant. This arrogance was exactly what Mara needed. The Council thought they were safe. They thought humans were broken and incapable of fighting back. Mara knew better. Under the red skies of Mars, she gathered her small crew and spoke to them with a mixture of fire and calm logic. "Do you understand what we are facing?" she asked. "The Council abandoned us. They left our families to die. They thought we would disappear quietly, but we did not. We survived, and now it's our turn. Not just to live, but to make them regret every decision they made against us." The crew listened, silent but inspired. Each had lost something, a parent, a sibling, a friend, to the plague or to neglect. The pain was still there, but Mara's words gave it purpose. They were not just survivors, they were the spark of humanity's return. Mara also knew they could not act recklessly. The Council's ships were far more advanced, faster, and heavily armed. A direct fight would be suicide. Humans would need to use their brains, their creativity, and their unpredictability. This was their greatest weapon. While aliens relied on logic, patterns, and technology that worked only in predictable ways, humans could improvise, adapt, and find solutions no one expected. As weeks turned into months, vigilance neared completion. The once buried ship now gleamed under the Martian sun, its engines tested and shields reinforced. Every part of it had been modified and improved by human hands. Each component was a testament to resilience, intelligence, and determination. One quiet evening, Mara stood outside the ship, looking at the stars. She remembered the first time she had gazed up at them as a child, dreaming of exploration, of making the universe a better place. Back then, she had thought the stars were a playground. Now she knew they were a battlefield, and yet there was no fear in her heart, only resolve. Humanity had been abandoned, yes, but that meant the galaxy had underestimated them. That mistake would not go unpunished. The first step of their journey was simple: leave the outer colonies and test Vigilance's capabilities. Scout alien patrols, recover lost technology, and strike where the Council least expected it. Small victories would build confidence, gather resources, and send a clear message: humans were back. Mara returned inside the ship where the crew was making final adjustments. Every hand moved with purpose. Every mind worked as a team. They were not soldiers, nor were they heroes. They were humans who had survived impossible odds. And now they would use that survival to claim their place among the stars. As the engines hummed for the first time, Mara whispered to herself, "They abandoned us. But we are still here, and one day we will show them what it means to leave humanity to die." The first part of humanity's revenge had begun. The engines of vigilance roared to life, breaking the eerie silence of the Martian plains. For the first time in decades, humans had a ship that could rival the speed and technology of the Galactic Council, at least in cleverness if not in raw firepower. Mara Kellen watched the crew with a sense of pride and unease. Every one of them had lost something to the plague or the Council's betrayal, but now they shared a new purpose: survival, resistance, and eventually, revenge. The crew was a mix of engineers, pilots, scavengers, and fighters, ordinary humans who had survived extraordinary losses. They had been chosen not just for skill, but for determination, courage, and resourcefulness. There was Joran, a young pilot who had flown small cargo ships across the outer colonies. Alara, a mechanic who could repair nearly anything with scrap metal. And Kale, a former soldier who had trained humans to defend themselves against alien raids. Even among survivors, each carried a heavy weight of grief and anger. Their first journey aboard Vigilance was not meant for battle. Mara wanted to test the ship, its engines, shields, and systems. They left the red deserts of Mars behind and slipped quietly into deep space. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a beautiful, silent reminder of what humanity had lost and what they could still achieve. Even in these early moments, Mara noticed something remarkable. Humans, left with nothing, had grown clever in ways aliens could not predict. They used instinct, intuition, and emotion, tools the Council had always dismissed as primitive. Where alien logic relied on patterns and rules, humans improvised. They saw problems from angles no alien mind would consider. This adaptability was the real weapon humanity had. After weeks of testing, Mara and the crew felt ready to take the next step. Intelligence reports suggested an abandoned research station on a nearby moon, once part of the Council's experiments with biological weapons, including the virus that had devastated Earth. The station was lightly guarded, making it a perfect first target. Vigilance would strike, recover technology, and prove that humanity was far from finished. The approach to the moon was tense. The crew had never been in combat against aliens, only observing them from afar. Fear was a constant presence, but so was determination. Myra addressed the crew in the small briefing room, her voice steady but charged with energy. "We will not fight like them," she said. "We will not charge blindly into their weapons or assume they will react logically. They expect humans to fail. That is our advantage. We strike smart, we strike fast, and we strike where they least expect. Humanity does not survive by following rules. Humanity survives by thinking beyond them." The crew nodded, silent but motivated. Each understood the stakes. This first strike was not only about resources, it was a statement. Humanity had been left to die, but now they had the chance to rise. When Vigilance emerged from the shadow of the moon, the abandoned station came into view. It was massive, built of dark alloys that glinted in the light of the distant sun. Security drones patrolled lazily. The aliens assumed the humans were incapable of mounting a threat. That assumption would soon be shattered. Using clever maneuvers, Mara guided the ship into a blind spot in the station's sensors. The crew held their breath as they bypassed detection systems with improvised code and mechanical tricks. They moved silently, each human skill carefully applied to outsmart the alien technology. Where machines relied on strict rules, humans acted unpredictably, changing plans mid-operation and exploiting weaknesses that logic alone could not anticipate. Inside the station, the team split into small groups. Joran led the pilots and engineers to disable external communications and security locks. Alara and Kale entered the research labs, scanning for useful technology and gathering information on past experiments. Mara stayed with the central systems, analyzing the station's data banks. Every step required careful coordination, every move demanded creative thinking. Despite the danger, the humans felt a thrill they had not known in years. For the first time since the plague, they were in control. For the first time since the Council's betrayal, they were the hunters, not the hunted. Every obstacle they overcame, every security system bypassed, reinforced their confidence. Humans were not weak. Humans were not done. By the time the Council's patrol ships noticed irregularities, it was too late. Mara and her crew had completed their objective. They extracted key technology, energy cores, shield prototypes, and critical data on alien fleet movements. More importantly, they left a message on the station's main console. "Humanity survives, remember this." The aliens were furious. They scrambled forces, but the humans were already gone, slipping back into the void of space. For the first time, Mara saw the truth. The Council had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would be costly. Returning to the outer colonies, the crew received a hero's welcome. Survivors cheered as Vigilance landed, its engines cooling with a soft hum. The stolen technology and the successful mission were proof that humans could fight back. Mara addressed the colony, her voice carrying hope and determination. "We were abandoned, left to die," she said. "But we are not broken. We are alive, and this is only the beginning. Every victory, no matter how small, brings us closer to reclaiming our place in the galaxy. Humanity will rise, and the Council will see that leaving us behind was their gravest mistake." As weeks passed, the crew of Vigilance refined their tactics. They studied alien behavior, learned to anticipate patrol patterns, and developed strategies that leveraged human unpredictability. Each successful raid bolstered morale, while every challenge they overcame strengthened the crew's trust in one another. They were no longer just survivors. They were a team, a force to be reckoned with, and a symbol of human resilience. But Mara also knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. The Council would retaliate. They had immense resources, powerful weapons, and fleets capable of annihilating human colonies. Every mission was a risk, and every victory would invite greater attention. Humanity had to remain smart, resourceful, and united. One night, Mara walked alone beneath the twin moons of a distant planet, staring up at the stars. The weight of loss pressed heavily on her heart, the families, friends, and worlds that had perished under the plague and the Council's neglect. But alongside the sorrow, there was a growing fire. Humanity had survived the unthinkable. Now they had the chance to reclaim their dignity, their power, and their place among the stars. In the quiet of the night, she made a silent vow: Every strike, every raid, every clever maneuver would serve as payback. Humanity would not simply survive, humanity would thrive. They would show the galaxy that no species, no matter how advanced, could dismiss the ingenuity, courage, and spirit of humans. And as Vigilance waited in orbit, ready for its next mission, Mara knew one thing for certain: the age of human passivity was over. Humanity had risen from the ashes, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The first victories were behind them, but the true war, the fight to remind the Council of humanity's strength, was only beginning. The galaxy had started to notice the humans again. Not as a weak, dying species, but as a force that moved with cunning, unpredictability, and determination. Mara Kellen and the crew of Vigilance had become whispers among the stars, survivors who dared to challenge the Galactic Council and strike where they least expected. The next mission was different. This was not a small scouting or raiding operation. It was a test, a bold move to prove humanity's strength. Myra had learned from the previous mission, stealth alone was not enough. They needed strategy, surprise, and above all, confidence. Their target was a remote alien research station on a frozen planet in the Outer Rim. Unlike the lightly defended station they had raided before, this one was guarded by automated turrets, drones, and an elite crew of alien scientists. Intelligence suggested that the station housed experimental weapons technology, possibly the same type that had worsened the plague on Earth. Capturing or destroying it would strike a blow both symbolic and practical. Mara gathered the crew in the briefing room. Joran, the pilot, leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Alara fidgeted with her tools and Kale sharpened his combat knives, a small ritual to steady his mind. "We cannot fight them head-on," Myra said. "They are stronger, faster, and better armed. If we charge in, we die. But we are not them. Humans think differently. We improvise, we adapt, and we strike where they will never see us coming." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We are going in as hunters, not soldiers. Every obstacle, every trap, every guard, we will use them against themselves. Remember, they abandoned us. Now it's our turn to show them what they underestimated." The crew nodded. Fear was still there, but it was mixed with excitement. This was the moment they had trained for, waited for, and dreamed of since escaping the plague. Humanity would strike back. Vigilance approached the frozen planet under the cover of a comet's shadow. Sensors on the station were strong, but Mara had devised a plan. They would use a diversion. A small, unmanned probe would activate near the station's outer perimeter, drawing attention and triggering the defensive drones to move toward it. Meanwhile, Vigilance would slip through a blind spot Myra had calculated, reaching the station's core undetected. The maneuver required perfect timing. Joran piloted the ship with calm precision, weaving through asteroid fields and magnetic storms, while Alara monitored the alien defenses, calculating every movement. Kale prepared the boarding equipment, ensuring they could quickly enter the station once they were in position. When the probe activated, alarms blared across the station. Drones swarmed outward, leaving the interior corridors lightly guarded. Myra signaled the crew, and Vigilance slipped through the blind spot, landing softly on the station's surface. The silence inside was tense, broken only by the hum of alien machinery. They split into teams. Mara led the group toward the central lab where the experimental weapons were stored. Alara and a few others disabled security systems and disarmed traps, using their understanding of both human and alien technology. Kale and the remaining crew positioned themselves at key choke points, ready to ambush any guards. The aliens were confident. They believed humans were weak, chaotic, and incapable of coordination. That confidence would be their undoing. As Mara's team reached the lab, they encountered the first challenge, an automated defense system that fired energy beams at intruders. Human engineers had never seen anything like it before, but they did not panic. Using mirrors scavenged from other parts of the station, they redirected the beams to harmless sections of the walls. The aliens never expected the human mind to see angles, light paths, and patterns that were illogical to their precise calculations. Inside the lab, they found the weapons they had come for, experimental energy cores and weapon prototypes. These were dangerous, but in human hands they became tools, not threats. Alara worked quickly, securing the devices while Mara copied critical data onto portable drives. Every second counted. They could not linger too long. As they prepared to leave, a squad of alien scientists and guards returned. A tense standoff began. Mara held up her hand. "No unnecessary fighting," she whispered. "We move fast and think fast. Let's use their rules against them." Kale and the crew created a distraction. They triggered alarms in a distant section of the station, drawing most of the guards away. Mara's team moved silently, using corridors the aliens never thought to check. The aliens reacted predictably, exactly as Mara had anticipated, and humans slipped past them with ease. Once outside, they activated a preset charge to disable the station's energy grid temporarily. The lights flickered and went out, systems shut down, and the remaining aliens were left in confusion. Vigilance lifted off just as the station's security drones scrambled to respond. The strike was a success. Humanity had not only retrieved valuable technology, but they had done so without a single human casualty. The crew cheered, adrenaline pumping, pride glowing on their faces. They had shown that human ingenuity, teamwork, and adaptability could overcome superior firepower. As they returned to the outer colonies, the consequences of the strike began to appear. The Galactic Council, for the first time, reacted with alarm. Messages flew between alien fleets, fleets were recalled, and patrols increased. They realized that the humans they had abandoned were not only alive but clever, resourceful, and dangerous. Mara watched the stars as Vigilance sailed through space. The victories had been small, but they were proof of something greater. Humans were not helpless. Humans were not insignificant. They had survived betrayal, plague, and abandonment, and now they were striking back in ways the Council could not predict. Yet Mara also understood the danger. The Council would respond, and their retaliation would be brutal. Every victory would be met with stronger defenses, faster ships, and more determined enemies. Humans could not rely solely on skill or luck. They needed intelligence, strategy, and unity. But the crew was ready. They had tasted victory, and the fire of revenge burned in their hearts. Every mission reinforced the lesson. Humans were underestimated, and that mistake could be exploited. Every action, every plan, every clever maneuver reminded the galaxy that humanity's strength lay not just in weapons, but in creativity, courage, and resilience. Back at the outer colonies, celebrations erupted. Survivors cheered as Vigilance returned with the spoils of their strike. Mara addressed the colony once again, her voice carrying the energy of triumph and resolve. "We were left to die," she said. "They thought we would vanish quietly, but we are here. We have survived. And today we have shown that humans cannot be ignored. We are clever, we are adaptable, and we are united. Humanity is rising, and the galaxy will remember it." Her words resonated through the colony, igniting hope and pride. Children looked up at the stars with wonder, inspired by the courage of those who had survived against impossible odds. Adults who had given up found new purpose, and even the elders felt a spark of determination they had not known in years. Myra knew this was only the beginning. The Council had underestimated them once, and humanity would continue to exploit that mistake. Each raid, each mission, each clever move brought them closer to the day when the Council would pay for abandoning Earth. That night, Mara walked among the colony, observing the crew as they repaired equipment, shared stories, and laughed after days of tension. She saw something remarkable. Humanity, even at its most fragile, had an unbreakable spirit. They could endure suffering, overcome fear, and rise stronger each time. In her private quarters, Mara stared at the stars again. The path ahead was dangerous, uncertain, and filled with enemies who believed themselves invincible. But she no longer feared the odds. Humanity had survived the unthinkable before, and now, with Vigilance, they had the tools, the courage, and the cunning to fight back. The first strike was complete. Humanity had reclaimed a piece of its strength and proved a simple truth. Underestimating humans was a grave mistake. And Mara smiled, knowing that the galaxy would learn that lesson over and over again, in ways the Council could never predict. The galaxy was changing, and humans were at the center of the storm. The first strikes had proven a simple truth: humans were not weak. They were clever, unpredictable, and dangerous in ways the Galactic Council had never considered. Mara Kellen knew that small raids and clever attacks could only go so far. To truly make the Council pay for abandoning humanity, they needed a bold plan, one that would shake the aliens to their core. The plan was risky, almost impossible. Mara called it the Gambit. It involved infiltrating the central hub of the Galactic Council, the core station that controlled fleets, monitored colonies, and coordinated the Council's entire operations. If humans could strike there, even briefly, they could cripple the Council's ability to respond to future raids and send a message that humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. The crew gathered in the control room of Vigilance. Tension hung thick in the air, but determination burned brighter. "We cannot rely on weapons alone," Mara said. "This mission will require everything we have: strategy, cunning, and the unpredictability that makes us human. The Council expects their central hub to be secure. They expect logic, predictability, and obedience. They do not expect creativity, improvisation, and courage. That is our advantage." Joran, the pilot, leaned forward. "So how do we even get in? Their defenses are impenetrable if you think like them," Mara interrupted. "But we do not think like them. We will approach from a path no one monitors, use a series of diversions, and strike at the heart of their network. If we succeed, the Council will face chaos. And if we fail, well, then we die trying. But at least we will try with our minds and our skills, not just with brute force." The crew nodded, understanding the risk. Fear was there, but it had been replaced by resolve. They had survived plague, betrayal, and impossible odds. They would survive this too, or at least they would try. Vigilance approached the core station in silence, using stealth protocols refined from their previous raids. Mara's calculations were precise. They would enter through an unmonitored maintenance corridor, avoiding detection systems that even the most advanced alien minds believed were infallible. The crew's hearts pounded as the massive station loomed ahead, glowing with lights and shields that seemed unbreakable. Once inside, the humans moved quickly. Mara split the crew into teams, each with a specific mission. One team would disable communications, another would sabotage the station's power systems, and a third, led by Mara herself, would access the central command consoles to extract critical data and plant evidence of human ingenuity and warning. They moved like shadows. Every corridor was a challenge. Drones, laser grids, and alien guards tested their ingenuity. Mara marveled at how far humans had come. What once would have been fear and panic was now focus, precision, and teamwork. Humans had adapted to survive, and now they were using that adaptation to fight back. Kale led a team through a sector of the station where patrols were heaviest. Instead of fighting directly, they created a series of distractions: collapsing floors, timed sparks, and illusions of movement. The guards reacted exactly as Mara predicted, moving toward the disturbances and leaving critical areas unguarded. Humans slipped past with ease, exploiting every assumption the aliens made about predictable behavior. Alara worked with precision on the station's energy grid, rewiring circuits and redirecting power. Systems flickered and alarms triggered, but Mara's careful planning kept the crew ahead. Every action had a purpose, every move was part of a larger strategy. Humans had learned from their past victories. Improvisation combined with preparation could overcome far greater power. Mara reached the central console and began copying critical data onto secure drives. She planted subtle messages in the system, evidence that humans had infiltrated the station, proof that the Council had underestimated them, and warnings that humanity would no longer accept betrayal. This was not just sabotage, it was a statement. The Council had abandoned humans, and now humans were taking control in ways the aliens could not predict. Suddenly, an alarm blared. One of the diversion teams had been discovered earlier than expected. Drones moved in fast, cutting off some exit routes. Mara's heart raced, but she stayed calm. They had prepared for this. The crew activated secondary escape routes, using maintenance shafts and hidden corridors Mara had discovered during their planning. The humans were fast, adaptable, and coordinated, qualities the Council had never anticipated. As they reached the docking bay, Mara saw Vigilance waiting, engines humming and shields ready. The final challenge was to reach the ship without triggering the remaining security systems. Kale and Joran led the way, using speed, agility, and clever timing to avoid detection. Alara followed, carrying the critical data drives and grinning at the absurdity of how easily humans were outsmarting an empire. They launched from the station just as alien reinforcements arrived. Lasers cut through space where they had been moments before, but Vigilance slipped through with agility the aliens could not match. The humans cheered. They had done it. They had struck at the very heart of the Galactic Council and lived to tell the tale. Back in the outer colonies, the crew reviewed the stolen data. They had learned more about the Council's fleet movements, weaknesses, and strategies than any human could have imagined. Every victory added confidence, every clever maneuver added skill, and every risk taken reinforced the lesson. Humans could survive, adapt, and thrive even against the most powerful enemies. Mara addressed the colony once again. We have done more than steal technology or strike a station. We have proven that humans are not weak. We are clever, we are adaptable, and we will not be ignored. The Council thought abandoning us would end our story. Instead, it has begun. The colony erupted with excitement. Children cheered, inspired by the bravery of the crew. Adults found purpose and pride in the human spirit. Even the elders who had lived through despair and loss felt hope rekindled. Humans were not just surviving, they were rising, and their time in the galaxy was far from over. Mara knew the danger was not gone. The Council would retaliate, and their next response would be stronger, faster, and more brutal. But she also knew that humanity's greatest weapon was not firepower or technology. It was the mind, the heart, and the ingenuity of people who refused to be broken. In the quiet of the night, Mara stood beneath the stars, reflecting on their journey. Humans had been abandoned, left to die by a galaxy that considered them insignificant. Yet here they were, striking at the Council itself, proving that resilience, intelligence, and creativity could overcome even the greatest odds. The next steps were clear. Humanity would continue to strike, gather allies, and build strength. Every mission would test them, but every victory would remind the galaxy of one undeniable truth: never underestimate humans. Mara returned to vigilance, looking at her crew as they celebrated their success. They were tired, yes, but stronger than ever. Each person had grown, not just as individuals, but as a part of something greater, a team, a movement, and a symbol of humanity's unbreakable spirit. "The Council may think they control the stars," Mara whispered. "But we control our destiny, and one day they will understand that abandoning humanity was their greatest mistake." The ship's engines hummed softly as they prepared for the next mission. Humanity had struck the first real blow, and the galaxy would never forget it.